mind is to brain. The clock, or watch, somehow contains the time, yet time refuses to be bottled up, like a genie stuffed in a lamp. Whether it flows on sand or turns on wheels within wheels, time escapes irretrievably, while we watch.
Even when the bulbs of the hourglass shatter, when darkness withholds the shadow from the sundial, when the mainspring winds down so far that the clock hands hold still as death, time itself keeps on.
The best we can hope a watch to do is to mark that progress. But since time sets its own tempo, like a heartbeat or an ebb tide, timepieces don't really keep time. They just keep up with it, if they're able.
Your Majesty, we have lost gold and silver coins, pearls, diamonds, amber, moss, ebony, calico, 400 tons of pepper, 45 tons of cloves, 35 tons of cinnamon. In total, we have lost the equivalent of half the net value of the entire English exchequer.
We do not have the sun and we do not have the stars, so we have no clock. It's been 58 days now, sir, in this storm. And without means of navigation, we're repeatedly missing landing on terra firma. We're losing 6 to 8 men every day due to scurvy.
Navigation by an inferior is forbidden in the Royal Navy, and so you are condemned to hang.
Your Majesty, for lack of a practical method of determining longitude, every great captain in this age of exploration has been lost at sea. While latitude may be determined easily enough by the length of the day, the height of the sun, or the presence of known stars over the horizon, longitude eludes us, even on the clearest days, and modern tools are too unreliable.
Your Majesty, the global ignorance of longitude is wreaking economic havoc on the grandest scale. It confines oceanic shipping vessels to a few narrow shipping lanes that promise safe passage.
Unfortunately, pirates also know these routes.
Under pressure to solve the longitude problem, I have founded the French Académie Royale des Sciences in the building of an astronomical observatory at Paris.
I have established the Heavenly Castle for naked eye observation at Renenborn, Denmark. I call upon observers from Germany and Poland to join with Italy in an international task force devoted to longitude measurement.
I look at this map, made by your longitude measurements, and find I am losing more territory to my astronomers than my enemies.
Captains of Her Majesty's ships, merchantmen, and merchants of London demand that the government take seriously the longitude problem and hasten to the day where longitude should cease to be a problem. By offering rich rewards to anyone who can determine longitude at sea accurately and practicably.
The Longitude Act, issued in the reign of Her Majesty Queen Anne on this day, July 8th, 1714, welcomes potential solutions from any field of science or art put forth by groups or individuals of any nationality and will reward success handsomely. In order, For the Longitude Board to judge the actual accuracy of any proposal, it must be tested on one of Her Majesty's ships as it sails from Great Britain to the West Indies. To be worthy of the great prize, the longitude must be calculated within half a degree.
Arithmetic makes the point. Half a degree of longitude equals 2 minutes of time, the maximum allowable mistake over the course of a 6-week journey from England to the Caribbean. An error of only 3 seconds a day compounded every day at sea for 40 days adds up to 2 minutes by journey's end.
Who is he?
Henry Harrison, sir, a humble carpenter. This is my wife, Elizabeth, and my boy, John.
The boy craves book learning.
Can he read?
Yes.
Can he write?
Yes.
I am lending you a textbook, a series of lectures by Nicholas Saunderson at Cambridge University.
Mr. Saunderson's mechanics? Henry, look. He is copying every word and drawing every
The
diagram.
wheel turns uniformly about its axis. The length of one round appears the diameter of the wheel directly. The circumference of a great wheel moves at the same velocity as the circumference of a small one. The periodical time of the former wheel will be much greater in proportion than the periodical time of the latter. On the subject of wood, set a monochord to the pitch of a bell and drive weather using lever and weight. If the pitch and the weather remain consistent, the pitch of the bell will become considerably sharper than that of the monochord. For this experiment to work, the monochord must not be kept in a room where there's fire. There must be no reason for any church clock of any pendulum to beat longer than 2 seconds. The length of a pendulum relative to the distance from the centre of motion at which impulse is implied should be the proportion of approximately 100 to 1. 100 to... pendulum relative to the distance from the centre of motion in which impulse is implied should be the proportion of approximately
Sir Charles
1 to 1.
Pelham!
There must be no wedge-like thrusting action by the escapement. Moreover, there be no variation due to the alteration in the sticky...
Good evening. I should like to hire you and your brother to build me a tower clock in my new stable in my manor house in Brocklesby Park.
Yes, you see, I've invented
Invented
a new kind of wheel.
Each of the wheels in the clock's going train resembles a child's drawing of the sun. The wood grain radiates from the centre of the wheel, creating an enduring strength. The works run without lubrication, created with ligament mighty and topical hardware that exudes its own grease, and it keeps nearly perfect time.
Brother, let's test the motion of the clock against the regular motion of the stars.
Yes. From one night to the next, because of the Earth's rotation, a star should transit exactly 3 minutes, 56 seconds earlier than the previous night.
Any clock that can track this sidereal schedule proves itself to be as perfect as God's magnificent clockwork.
And I've never erred more than a single second in a whole month.
While the finest quality watches drift off 1 minute every day. You've created unprecedented precision. What about the Longitude Prize?
Marine timekeeping.
Found a way around the lubricant. New high in precision pendulum for all seasons.
But no pendulum could ever survive the rolling ocean.
Springing set of seesaws, self-contained and counterbalanced to withstand the wildest waves.
Yes.
Off to London then.
The college will the whole world measure, which most impossible conclude. And navigation may a pleasure by finding out the longitude every time. tie it to an article from an ailing person. A bit of bandage from a wound, perhaps?
Oh.
And when sprinkled with the powder of sympathy, it will hasten the closing of that wound, no matter the distance between the patient and the powder. But it can be a bit painful, so the patient will jump as the powder is applied.
So, to solve the longitude problem, here's what's going on. All our sailors get lost out at sea because they don't know where the hell jolly old England is and they don't know what time it is there. So here's what you do. You send aboard a wounded dog as the ship sets sail. You take a bandage from it and you leave it ashore with a trusted individual. That's the thing. And here's what you do. He's going to dip the bandage into the sympathy solution every day at noon. When he does that, the dog is going to emit a cry. Go on. That tells the captain it's noon in London. He compares that time to the local time on the ship and figures out the longitude accordingly. Thank you. 10 tuppence.
What if you kill the dog?
Well, you might have to take several dogs on the ship with you. Come on, 5 tuppence.
Dr. Edmund Hayley,
Hayley's comet, Hayley.
Yes,
second astronomer royal and member of the Board of Longitude.
all of that is true.
I have a proposal to resolve the longitude problem. I have a concept for a sea clock.
The Board of Longitude has been in existence for 15 bloody years and has never met. So mediocre are the proposals we receive that not a single suggested solution has inspired us to meet. I am, however, impressed with your drawings. I know that the Board of Longitude will not welcome a mechanical answer to what it sees as an astronomical question, close-minded knobheads. But I am going to send you to the famous watchmaker, George Graham.
Graham, but what if he steals our...
Honest George Graham will be the best judge of your sea clock. And unlike the rest of these wankers, myself included, at least he will understand the fine details of its design.
This morning, I am vastly surprised at the methods you have taken. You must endeavor to create this marine clock to solve the longitude problem. This loan is to be repaid at no great haste and at no interest.
Thank you.
There must be no wedge-like thrusting action by the escapement
for measuring time at sea. Upon such a principle as seems to us to demonstrate a very sufficient degree of exactness, we are of the opinion that it deserves public encouragement and a thorough trial.
Harrison!
Hayley!
In order for the Board of Longitude to determine the accuracy of your marine clock, it must be tested on one of Her Majesty's ships as it sails over the ocean. So, you and your marine clock are being sent on a voyage to
Portugal!
Portugal. Oh. As you know, in order to be worthy of the £20,000 prize, you must determine longitude on this voyage within a matter of
Half a degree.
Yes.
Your clock cannot earn more than 3 seconds in a 24-hour period.
Right.
Captain, the instrument which you see before you has been approved by all the mathematicians in town to be the best that has been made for measuring time. How it will succeed at sea, you will be the judge.
In my quest for determining longitude at sea, the circular arcs defined by the edge of the pallets is approximately 32 to 1.
The problem with measuring time on a ship, so many unequal shocks and motions in opposition to it, it makes me fear you attempt impossibilities.
Nothing is impossible.
We need not worry about the performance of your machine. It is your stomach that gives you grief. But don't worry, we're almost home. There is start on the coast around Dartmouth.
No, according to my clock, the land sighted must be the Lizard off the Penzance Peninsula, nearly 60 miles west of Start.
And so it is.
Board of Longitude, 1737.
John Harrison. You stand before the Longitude Board, a group of professionals and politicians proud of what you have done for king and country. We are gathered for the first time in 15 bloody years because of the promising nature of your designs.
Your clock has not earned more than a few seconds on the trial run to Lisbon.
We want you to take the final voyage, the West Indies trial established by law using your marine clock.
No,
Needs uniform drive, responsive temperature compensation.
No?
the clock shows some defects I want to correct.
I need to do a bit more tinkering with the mechanism.
It needs to be smaller. With another 2 years of work, if the board can see its way clear to advance me the necessary funds, I can create another timekeeper, an even better timekeeper, and then I will request the official trial on the voyage to the West Indies, but not now.
There are 4 things I want to adjust, 2 of which the escaping composes of the pallets to the relative rest and the corresponding curvature of the pendulum suspension may be regarded as 1. The 2 remaining adjustments relate to the pendulum temperature compensating wires and their doubling, plus the pendulum rating nut. Since rectification of those things must relate to the adjustment of the clock, i.e. by the master workman, it will be quite impossible to perfect using celestial observations or any other method unless the foundations or principles of the clock are in accordance with what I have shown in particulation. There are 4 things I want to adjust, 2 of which the escaping composes of the pallets with the relative rest and the corresponding curvature of the pendulum suspension may be regarded as 1. The 2 remaining adjustments relate to the pendulum temperature compensating wires and their redoubling, plus the pendulum rating nut. Since rectification of those things must relate to the adjustment of the clock, i.e. by the master workman, it will be quite impossible to perfect using celestial observations or any other method unless the foundations or principles of the clock are in accordance with
Made for His Majesty, George II.
We have tested the clock to heating, to cooling, and to agitation of motion greater than that of a ship in a storm.
And the result of these tests is this, that as far as can be determined without making a voyage at sea, the clock's motion is sufficient and exact for determining longitude within the limits of Parliament and probably much nearer.
No, not perfect.
Sirs, I am disgusted with the remaining inaccuracy. All I really want is your blessing to go home and try again.
It's still not perfect. It's still not right. We need to make more adjustments. It needs to be smaller.
It needs to be smaller.
It has taken him 19 years to complete the H3. And this time he is already at work on the next version with his son, will you?
I am erred in size! I have good reason to believe that a small machine may be of great use with respect to longitude.
It's still not right.
know.
Still not perfect. It needs to be smaller, with wheels. Spinning wheels, and we need a material strong enough, like rubies or diamonds. Yes, diamonds that can be strong enough, except... Wait!
I may make bold to say that there is no other mathematical or mechanical thing in the world quite as beautiful or curious in texture as this. My watch, or timekeeper for longitude. Almighty God, that I've lived so long, as in some measure, to complete it.
The moving moon, full gibbous or crescent-shaped, shines like a luminous hand on the clock of heaven. The broad expanse of sky serves as a dial for this celestial clock, while the sun, the planets, and the stars paint the numbers on its face.
But a seaman cannot read the clock of heaven with a quick glance. Only with complex observing instruments and logarithm tables compiled far in advance.
And it takes about 4 hours to calculate time from the heavenly dial.
When the weather is clear, that is.
If the clouds appear, the clock hides behind them. Then even the astronomers will need our watch.
Astronomers! And other learned colleagues, I am introducing Reverend Nevil Maskelyne, former fellow at my alma mater, Trinity College, Cambridge University, and fellow devotee to the science of astronomy.
Astronomer Royal Bradley, I am honoured to be brought into your work and hope to pair our true methodical minds for life in joint pursuit of an astronomical longitude solution.
I am on the verge of codifying the lunar distance method of determining longitude with the help of tables sent over from Germany.
He has taken over 1,200 observations, followed by laborious calculations.
In an effort to verify the tables. And now, Reverend Maskelyne, I award you a plum position on an expedition to St. Helena to demonstrate the value of these tables for navigation.
Sailing to and from St. Helena, using Hadley's quadrant and your lunar tables to discover longitude at sea. I am sure that the lunar distance method will work like a charm in my capable hands.
The British Mariner's Guide, containing complete and clear instructions to the discovery of longitude at sea,
with observations of the distance from the moon to the sun and stars, taken with Hadley's quadrant.
by Nevil Maskelyne, A.M., Fellow of Trinity College, Cambridge, and the Royal Society.
Esteemed members of the board, the Cloak of Heaven forms John Harrison's chief competition for the Longitude Prize. My lunar distance method, based upon measuring the motions of the moon, constitutes the only reasonable alternative to Harrison's timekeepers. I call upon 2 captains from the East India Company.
The lunar distance method, outlined by Astronomer Nevil masculine, has been invaluable to me in times of navigation.
I've used the procedure many times.
As have I.
And I've always been able to compute longitude within a matter of...
4 hours.
Yes, 4 hours.
These tables ought to be published and widely distributed.
And then this method may be easily put into practice by seamen.
Thank you, Captain. Mr. Harrison, we are ready for you now. If it were not for you and your plaguey watch, I should have won the prize by now. Mr. Harrison, your marine timekeeper, the H4, will now have its West Indies trial. 2 astronomers will establish the correct time of departure from London and arrival time in Jamaica, and you will set your clock by them.
I am not going. But I am sending my son William in my place.
Sir, your H4 has lost only 5 seconds, and that is after 81 days at sea. We acknowledge the great perfection of your watch. You, sir, and your watch must now return to England and report your findings to the Board of Longitude.
Although your watch seems to have done all the Longitude Act demands, we must now evaluate the trial. I call for 2 mathematicians to check and recheck the data on the time determinations from Portsmouth and Jamaica, as both of these seem insufficient and inaccurate.
In conclusion, the experiments already made of the watch have not been sufficient in determining longitude at sea.
But the £20,000 you have said...
In recognition of the fact that your invention is nevertheless an object of considerable utility to the public, we award you with £1,500. Back to the West Indies with it. Better luck next time. Astronomer Bliss.
The watch's so-called accuracy is a mere chance occurrence. I do not predict a precision performance in the next trial.
The timekeeper may enhance the lunar distance method, but never supplant it.
A publication has lately been made by the Reverend Mr. Masculine, tending by the suppression of some facts and misrepresentation of others to impress the world with an unjust opinion of my invention.
My lunar distance method has clearly shown itself to be the supreme solution to the longitude problem.
The method of ascertaining longitude by the moon has already cost the public £6,600, and yet no proper experiment has been made of it.
Mr. Harrison has, in vain, in his 6-penny pamphlet answer to Mr. Masculine, attempted to set aside the facts of observation. His advocate has charged Mr. Masculine with being deeply loyal to the lunar method in a monetary way. Who would have believed it? He is not so concerned in the watch way.
In his 5th volume of Monsieur de Lacaille's and Varieties, page 36, any person would be in the wrong to assume that calculating the longitude by the moon could be determined with any less error than 2 degrees.
Let the method which is employed never be so perfect.
May the instruments now in practice be never so excellent.
Let the observer be the most able and accomplished.
It would be ridiculous.
Mr. Harrison's clock, though quick, it is but a quirk, while the heavens are universally available to all.
We are of the unanimous opinion that the said timekeeper has kept its time with sufficient correctness.
You could hardly do otherwise. The clock proved to show the longitude within 10 miles, nearly 3 times more accurately than the Longitude Act demanded.
Your watch still has a lot of explaining to do.
We will hand over half the remaining reward money on the condition that Harrison release to us all 3 of his remaining clocks, as well as a full disclosure into the clockwork inside the H4.
If you wish to receive the full amount of the £20,000 prize, you will also be asked to supervise production of 2 duplicate copies of the H4, as proof that the design can be duplicated.
I will not comply with these outrageous demands foisted on me, so long as there is a drop of English blood in my body.
Sir, you are the strangest, most obstinate creature I have ever met with. And if you would but do what we ask of you, and what is in your power, I give you my word, we will give you the money. If you will but do it.
Betrays his absolute ignorance of mechanics, and of this machine in particular. I even heard some of the gentlemen present at the explanation of my clockwork say they wondered at his patience at attending so long to a subject that he was totally unacquainted with.
Mr. John Harrison, I have a warrant for the arrest of your sea clocks.
You aren't actually going through with this.
We, the commissioners appointed by the Acts of Parliament for the discovery of longitude at sea, do hereby require you to deliver up to the Reverend Nevil Masculine, now Astronomer Royal at Greenwich, your marine timekeepers or sea clocks now in your possession, which are to become the property of the public.
Taking my clocks hostage. This is ridiculous.
We are taking them for a third trial on land. It is to take place in my observatory, under the strictest surveillance.
Before you arrest my sea clocks, grant me one concession. I want a written statement that you see my clocks in perfect working order as you see them here under my roof.
Yes. Well, they appear by all appearances to be in perfect order.
Then sign. Sign.
How would you like them to be moved? As is? Or dismantled?
Dismantled?
Any advice I give you will surely be used against me in the event of some mishap. H3 can go as is. H1 and H2 need to be taken apart a bit.
We cannot watch the signalman.
It has taken me 3 years to complete this final watch. I tested and adjusted it for another 2. By the time it pleases me, I am 79 years old. I do not see how I could possibly start another. Even if I could, the official trials must extend into the next decade, though surely my life cannot. Back against the wall. Back against the wall. Back against the wall.
We have created unprecedented precision, found a way around the lubricant, new high in precision pendulum for all seasons, springing set a seesaw, self-contained and counterbalanced to withstand the wildest waves.
Your Majesty, King George III, I humbly beseech you. Might my father's new watch, the H5, be lodged for a certain time in your private observatory?
Why?
We hope for a fair trial in a safe place.
These people have been cruelly treated. By God, Harrison, I will see you righted. I call upon Prime Minister Lord North and Parliament for bare justice.
I am an old man. I have devoted my life to these endeavors, and though I have succeeded, I have been given new and impossible demands, and only half a prize.
We hear you. John Harrison, inventor of the marine timekeepers for determining longitude. And we, in Parliament, acknowledge your great work. We resolve to give you the equivalent of the remaining longitude prize money. We know it is a small recompense for the work of a man who has devoted his life and his genius to such a noble pursuit. His Majesty's kingdom gives you its thanks.
Thank you for this sum.
An award given in spite of the Board of Longitude instead of from it.
in a new Act of Parliament. We repeal all previous legislation on longitude. All entries are to be submitted in duplicate, then undergo testing here in Greenwich under the Astronomer Royal, followed by 2 voyages around Great Britain, the first going east, the other west, followed by whatever voyage to whatever destination the board deems necessary, culminating in up to 12 additional months of observation in the Royal Observatory.
That will give the mechanics a bone to pick that will crack their teeth.
My father, before he died, was virtually alone as the only person in the world seriously pursuing a timekeeper solution to the longitude problem.
And now, in the wake of the H4, legions of watchmakers are taking upon the special calling of marine timekeeping. It is becoming a boom industry in our maritime nation. My name, sirs, is Thomas Mudge of Fleet Street, and I was apprenticed in my youth to honest George Graham, the clockmaker.
He's earned a reputation as a fine craftsman and fair tradesman.
I have constructed my 2 marine timekeepers, incorporating and improving upon many of Harrison's ideas. And with my 2 timekeepers, I am competing in earnest for the Longitude Prize. But while testing my clock at Greenwich, the Royal Astronomer Nevil masculine made it stop running through mishandling.
Unwittingly.
And within another week, accidentally broke the device's mainspring.
That has yet to be proven.
£3,000 awarded to Thomas Mudge in recognition of his contributions.
An escapement lies at the core of any clock. Perfect timekeeping is defined by the design of the escapement. Pivoted detent escapement.
Pivoted detent escapement.
Spring detent escapement.
Spring detent escapement.
Pivots with springs will eliminate any need to oil that part of the works. The machine used for measuring time at sea is here named chronometer. So valuable a machine deserves to be known by a name instead of a definition.
Of the East India Company with a special column for longitude by chronometer. I know, all the Navy captains are using lunars when the sky permits, but in recent tests, the chronometers have proven themselves a magnitude more precise than lunars.
The infinite practicality of John Harrison's approach was demonstrated so thoroughly that its once formidable competition simply disappeared. Having established itself securely on shipboard, the chronometer was soon taken for granted, like any other essential thing.
Lieutenant Gould!
Oh, hello.
Welcome to the Greenwich Observatory.
Thank you. I was wondering if I might have a look at the old Harrison clocks. Are those here?
The big sea clocks.
Yes.
Right this way.
Thank you.
H1, H2, and H3 were all brought here to Greenwich
in a rather dishonourable fashion after being taken from Harrison's home on May 23rd, 1766. The Astronomer Royal, at the time, Nevil Masculine, never wound them nor tended to them after testing them, but simply consigned them to damp storage where they were forgotten for the rest of his lifetime and beyond.
Dirty, defective, corroded.
H1, in particular, looks as though it went down with the Royal George and stayed at the bottom for good.
Completely covered, even the wooden portion in a bluish-green patina.
Sir, I would like to have permission to restore all 4 of them to working order. It would be a sort of therapy for me.
It'll take you 12 years.
I will do the work without pay. If I start with the first one, I can hardly do this machine any further harm.
I don't see why not.
Mrs. Muriel Gould of St. George's Square petitioned for a decree of judicial separation against her husband, Lieutenant Commander Rupert Thomas Gould, alleging food which affected her health. Guilty was denied. There was a body of medical evidence on both sides. Mr. and Mrs. Gould were married in 1917. Previously, the husband had had a nervous breakdown suffered at the outset of World War I, which barred him from active duty. Apparently, he had recovered sufficiently to justify his getting married. In 1920, a daughter was born. Mr. Gould did not appear to be very well balanced about that time because he talked of suicide in a way which certainly distressed and frightened his wife.
5 out of the 24 anti-friction wheels have vanished. Most of the complicated gridiron compensation parts are missing and many others defective. The second hand is gone and the hour hand cracked. As for the small parts, pins, screws, etc., scarcely 1 in 10 remains.
If I could direct your attention here, you'll see that H3 is not really complicated like H2, it's abstruse. And it embodies several devices which are entirely unique. Devices which Harrison invented by tackling his mechanical problems as an engineer might, and not as a clockmaker would. As for H4, the watch, it took me nearly 3 days to figure out the trick of getting the hands off of it. I more than once believed that they were welded on.
Now, is it true you've had no horological training?
Yes, in that respect, Harrison and I were in the same boat.
What was the hardest job of this restoration of the Harrisons?
The worst job was the last, adjusting the little check pieces on the steel balance springs. A process which I can only describe as like trying to thread a needle, only the needle is stuck in the back of a motor lorry and you're chasing it on a bicycle. I finished this about 4 p.m. on February 1st, 1933, while a gale was lashing rain against the windows of my garret. And 5 minutes later, number 1 had begun to go again for the first time since June 17th, 1767. An interval of 165 years. Thank you.
We stand on the prime meridian of the world, 0 degrees longitude, the center of time and space.
Since time is longitude, and longitude time, we stand where day begins. Here at Greenwich, the keeper of the stroke of midnight.
We tested and succeeded against all odds in using the 4th temporal dimension, time, to link 3-dimensional points on a globe. We wrestled the world's whereabouts from the stars, and we locked the secret in a pocket watch.